Welcome to Dr. TSPR show. This is Dr. Tangella Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello, and a warm welcome to our public health Galibji, Dr. Amitav Banerjee, is the leading epidemiologist and professor community medicine, Dr. Patil College from Pune. He has been a regular on this show, and that too with larger public interest. When people were asking what happened, they were giving me the dates. The last show was so and so date. I said no, he's busy. Not only that, we are trying to select good topics, and he's encouraging many others, so they're all coming on my show. Courtesy Dr. Amitav Banerjee, don't worry. He's not idle sitting playing chess with his juniors or with the undergraduates there. He's planning. Yes, sir. First, one word to all the viewers. Why is that you are not coming regularly? First, you tell them.
I have to do homework also. I am very thankful to my viewers and to Dr. Reddy to introduce me to this platform because I have to do my homework also. I mean, I am not like those experts who speak without any homework or without any data, and I have to verify the facts many times.
Wonderful.
So,
Wonderful.
those who talk frequently may just talk whatever they feel like.
That's what.
They are parrots. Actually.
That's what.
They
That's
have
what.
to do the homework.
That's what I keep telling you. Such wonderful guests. They come with so much of information. We are here to give you proper information as per rule of law, constitution, invoking evidential act. No enmity against individual nor animosity against any party or organizations. Issue as per rule of law, constitution, invoking evidential act. समाचार जिस तरह होनी चाहिए उसी तरह संविधान को, कानून को और आधार को ध्यान में रखते हुए हम वैज्ञानिक विज्ञान और सच्चाई, साथ में आज़ादी. We speak science, and we have been speaking science because only truth will prevail. So science and truth will help our freedom, right to live, fundamental rights. This is what we have been preaching. The same thing we will continue to do with Dr. Amitav Banerjee also. Before I make him presenter, as usual, small what is happening across the globe and why we are not learning our lessons, India. Because now we are speaking about children. If children get infected, it's fine. But if children develop complications because of under trial, untested vaccine without liability and compensation, who is going to be held responsible? One. Masking. Arey yaar, we breathe air. Through air we breathe oxygen. What the hell you are doing? The banks, schools, wherever you go, we are asking them, do you have any legal document to force masks upon us? Come on, show the documents. Dr. Amitav Banerjee will clear it very clearly when we go and discuss. You are trying to psych the child, not allowing the child to breathe so that the child can take much needed oxygen. Through oxygen, the food what we take, it burns. Energy is released. That is how you are active and you are alive. What is happening? So that's why we are trying to keep up the tempo so that the parents will become very clearly understanding. So I am presenting to you again a sportsman. As already me and Dr. Amitav Banerjee we have stated, cricket we have played with you, relating pandemic. We have played chess. We have played tennis. What is that you want us to do? Still we continue to do because ultimately it is science, truth and freedom which should win. So here again, Djokovic, the world number 1 tennis player, he missed Australian Open, but he did not allow his body to be inoculated with vaccine. He says it is my body, my right to live, and what is that I need, I will take. Who the hell you are to forcefully inject? Damn it, तुम्हारी डैश 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 इन हिंदी में. चलो बाहर भेजो ऑस्ट्रेलिया के. तो क्या हुआ? आसमान तो टूट नहीं पड़ रहे, लेकिन मैं जहर मेरे अंदर नहीं आने दूंगा. क्यों जहर? जब तक आपको सही समाचार ना हो. He feels, I'm not against vaccine, I'll show you what he quotes. but without understanding what does this vaccine contain and where is the necessity for this vaccine, because now they have changed the definition of vaccine from prevention. It says it will stop disease, it will stop hospitalization. No nonsense. That is why he says the principles of decision making on my body are more important than any title. Wonderful, hats off to him. Novak Djokovic Grand Slam winner. Banerjee ji, your comment.
No, that is a good example, because for a disease, and particularly this tennis champion Novak, he has already recovered. He has already recovered from natural infection. And now there is no doubt, even the CDC is admitting that recovery or natural immunity after recovery gives better than even vaccine and even hybrid immunity. It was proposed to justify the vaccine, that even after recovery, this has against all scientific principles in the history of public health. We never, and if you have to give, you don't give it in 1 year of recovery. And for a disease which has got almost 99.99% survival in young healthy people, where is the indication for vaccine? Even if Novak had recovered, even if he gets a reinfection, even then he will be protected by his natural immunity. He will not get severe disease. So there is no scientific basis for vaccinating people who have recovered, and the whole world, I don't know, has gone mad. The scientific community has gone mad. They are practicing almost public health quackery, I keep saying. It is quackery, because giving a new vaccine for which we do not know the long-term harms, taking risk without any added benefit to a young person who has recovered from natural infection. And now there is no doubt that there are increased risk of myocarditis, inflammation of the heart in the people, particularly in young males. Data is showing, European data is showing, American data is showing that there are increase in myocarditis. Then there are increase in athletes who are falling on the sports field with pain chest. So it is a matter of concern. So definitely what the tennis champion is doing is really, other players also, other world community should also wake up and make a statement. It is not his. He is doing it for the humanity.
Yeah, there is another one caption before I play two videos. The real Anthony Fauci, because we are quoting from largely circulated evidences. It is on your screen. The real Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and the global war on democracy and public health. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., New York Times best-selling author. Children's Health Defense. He is the one who has been fighting very hard. As you rightly said, the real Anthony Fauci, he makes decisions for Americans, and WHO copy and paste. Rest of the world does the same. Now they are exposing, Americans are exposing the real Anthony Fauci. They say he is a combination of Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and together they have waged a war, global war on democracy and public health. That is why last 2 years we have been stating it is public health, it is our health, right to life and right to health. In a democracy, we have this fundamental right. So what are you doing? Turned a health issue into a law and order issue, political issue, now a big commercial issue in the form of IT and pharma giants coming together, unleashing lockdowns, holding us at home for ransom. What? Use IT technology, spoil your eyes and everything, and use unnecessary drugs or vaccine. Yes, sir, your comment on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has been fighting a...
Unfortunately, this is scientists, particularly scientists like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who start off being very eminent scientists, and under influence of big pharma, under influence of politics, when they mutate, these mutated scientists are more dangerous to humanity than mutated viruses.
Mutated scientists are more dangerous than these mutated viruses for the world. Big statement from Dr. Amitav Banerjee. Yes, sir.
And they mutate under pressure of big pharma, under pressure of politics, under pressure of career. This causes dangerous mutations in scientists. And viruses, when they mutate, they become more benign. But scientists, when they mutate, they can become more harmful.
Wonderful. I think this, when we repeat, I think with the permission of Dr. Amitav Banerjee, I will change this. Hope, sir, you would remind me. When a scientist mutates, it is more harmful and dangerous for the world. But when a virus mutates, it is benign. It becomes a natural source of, what should I say, booster. We have called even Omicron as a natural booster. So,
Booster, symbiosis, live and let live.
live and let live.
Live and
Virus,
let
virus, if it mutates, it says live and let live. But a scientist like Anthony Fauci, if they mutate, the world is
Scientists,
destroyed.
when they mutate, they live themselves but kill others.
They live for themselves, but they kill others. Big statement coming out of this show from the Ghalib of public health. Wonderful, sir. Hats off to you. What a better way describing all this. We'll just show you two videos, and you hope what is happening around the world. And I'm trying to quote those videos which are in vast circulation. And after that, we'll show you the latest today in Delhi also, before I hand it over to Gautam Da. What's happening? So it's here. Not against vaccine, but support freedom to choose what you put in your body. We said, in spite of 100 years history of TB vaccine, how many people are dying? Even in spite of vaccine, in spite of treatment. All of a sudden you get a vaccine with no liability and compensation, investing my money, and still emergency use authorization, even after 2 years. You don't know what the virus is all about, but you want to inject, stating it is a vaccine. Then you have changed the definition of vaccine. Novak Djokovic says willing to pay the price for his anti-vax stance. Wonderful. And another one. Yeah, before I play Delhi one, I think there is another small. Yeah. Only hope it opens.
Canada's Justin Trudeau has done the impossible. He has turned a fringe anti-vax movement in Canada into a global campaign. Freedom
Let me enlarge it. I'm just trying to check where.
convoys are popping up all over the world now, in Israel, in Belgium, America, France, Australia. There are two takeaways from this movement. Number one, it exposes the West's unscientific and arrogant temperament. And number two, it exposes the hypocrisy of Western leaders. Let me show you two sets of pictures. One is from Paris, the other is from the US. There was tear gas, there was intimidation, there were clashes. Do you know what was missing? The lectures on morality. Imagine if these pictures were from Baghdad or Cairo or New Delhi. Trudeau would have been rallying on Twitter. Joe Biden would have been lecturing from the White House. But in this case, they are in full agreement. The protests must end. If Canada's blockades are illegal, so are India's. If Canada can use the police to restore daily life, so can India. That is what the West must realize and accept.
Now, this is where we are against this. How can you say we will follow the West? It's nonsense. Am I right, sir?
Canada's Justin Trudeau has done the impossible. He has turned a fringe anti-vax movement in Canada into a global campaign. Freedom convoys are popping up all over the world now, in Israel, in Belgium, America, France, Australia. There are two takeaways from this movement. Number one, it exposes the West's unscientific and arrogant temperament. And number two, it exposes the hypocrisy of Western leaders.
Here we'll stop. Now I'll just see how, up till then it is good. They don't understand, this media, that people are on the roads. And the impositions from the Western scientists and government, we have been saying right from the day one. Why the hell you have World Health Organization dictated by America or someone else who doesn't speak or preach science? In this case, Corona pandemic. Now, even the earlier cases also are being exposed now, day in and day out. Now, people not trusting their own people in their countries, they are not trusting. They want freedom. They say they are against all these mandates, vaccine, masks, social, physical distance. And in relation, why are you again trying to see? You have seen what happened to farmers' agitation. We have been asking Supreme Court, why you don't investigate farmers' investigation? No masks, no physical distance. And how many were vaccinated there? Still, they waged war for 1 year. That is science. What is that natural immunity we have been talking about? This is what we have been talking about, natural immunity. And we say the herd immunity has already set into India. Yes, sir, your take on this. How these people, media people also, yep.
You have said one thing that the scientists, whatever the consensus from the West, we are copying the scientific, the ICMR or Ministry of Health guidelines are blindly copying, but they should also realize that it cuts both ways. They have started, the movement has started in the Western countries, in Canada, in France, in USA. The people are revolting. So similarly, in India also and other countries also, if these harsh measures are implemented, authoritarian measures without any scientific here, people here also will revolt. And so that would be unfortunate. Fortunately, our government is not as draconian as perhaps the Western governments like Canada and all. Here, there have been certain court rulings, particularly recently in Bombay High Court, where the school board, because school board gave a circular that all school students and those who come in for board exams should be vaccinated. But that has been last week, I think last 4 days back, the Bombay High Court has given us a ruling that because center has given an affidavit, Supreme Court, that vaccines are not mandatory, they are voluntary. So on that, the Bombay High Court and the circular has been taken back by the Director of Education, Maharashtra government. So that ruling should apply all over the country, and students cannot be forced to take vaccine.
Wonderful.
This, I think, should be known to all parents. It is a choice which has to be made voluntarily.
Yeah. It is a choice which has to be taken voluntarily by all parents. Bombay High Court judgment is clear there. You are not forced to be vaccinated, and if you are not vaccinated, you can write your exam too.
लेकिन हम यहाँ केजरीवाल जी को एक बात और बताने आए हैं कि एक महामारी जिसका नाम उन्होंने कोरोना रखा है, हम लोगों ने उसका इलाज खोज लिया है। आप तो बाहर निकले, हम उन्हें इलाज बताने आए हैं, और उस इलाज का नाम है डरोना। दुश्मन नहीं मानता, लेकिन आप लोगों को हमारा दुश्मन बनाया जा रहा है। गौर करिए कि आप लोगों को हमारा दुश्मन बनाया जा रहा है। नहीं, सच बात तो ये है कि जितनी हम लोगों को समझ है कि प्रशासन दबा रहा है, उससे 10 गुना ज्यादा आपको जानकारी है कि प्रशासन दबा रहा है।
बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत बढ़िया।
Yeah, this is a big demonstration in front of CM Kejriwal. He is hypocrite, we have been telling you. He attends with lakhs of people morning in rally. Night he comes and he declares curfew in Delhi. What is happening? See, and all political parties have become one. पूरे राजनीतिक दल एक हो गए.
बताता हूं, अगर आप आज नहीं बोले तो आप लोग
So we'll come back to that. I'll play this again. Don't worry. Lastly, because now before it gets delayed beyond a point, I want Dr. Amitav to start his presentation because he has got some wonderful presentation for parents to understand. Don't fear. Don't panic. Whatever they do, these administrators, politicians or administrators, media, don't get into that. Don't get into that. Yes, sir, you are the presenter. We are giving you science, we are giving you truth, and it should be freedom.
Can you see the screen, Dr. Reddy?
Yes, sir, please.
So this is the today's talk. I think I had covered it once earlier also. Children and COVID-19. So I am covering it again because this is the most important thing on the parents' mind. Schools are opening, board exams are coming, and many educational institutions are asking for vaccine certificate. But as I said recently, certain court judgments have gone in favor of human rights, in favor of science, that this is totally voluntary. It cannot be forced. So, and I have also tried to collect some more recent data. Unfortunately, most of the data, we have got very little data from India. Actually, with such a large country, 130 crores or 140 crores, and such a large children population, over the 2 years, the so-called Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and ICMR should have analyzed data, should have spent some money on analyzing the data, or at least put the data in public domain, other scientists could analyze. So very few data is available from the Indian context, but we have got some data from Canada, we have got some data from USA, we have got some data from Europe, we have got some data from Sweden, which never closed its schools. And that's a very important data from Sweden. Throughout the pandemic, when the earlier waves, Delta wave, Alpha wave, all the waves were passing through Europe, those days also, there was hardly any impact on children. So that data is very important. So I will be showing, I have compiled data from all over the world as COVID affects children, both the virus, how it has affected children. Besides that, what about the impact of the school closure? What about the impact of the lockdown? What about the impact of the economic setback? In fact, you will see, and it is common sense also, it's not rocket science, that has harmed children much more and will continue to harm much more than the virus. So this is the theme of my talk. So first I will present whatever data throughout up till this year, I think June or October, this data up till now, up to 10 years of the total cases age-wise, only 3.36% cases were of children up to 10 years, and up to 11 to 20 years, 8.4%. So total about only 12% of the cases were up to the age of 20 years. 80% cases or 90% cases, almost 90% cases were in adults. Since we are talking of vaccination of children, this public health has to see the burden. If the burden of children, why they may be definitely, as per the Sero survey, latest Sero survey in very late also, but in September this year, 80% of the children had antibodies. So that shows children do get the infection, but they don't get the symptoms. Adults also mostly they are asymptomatic, but more children are asymptomatic compared to adults because they have got natural protection, physiological protection, because they do not have the ACE receptors in the lungs to which the virus latches. So they hardly get any symptoms or severe disease. Secondly, they have got a very strong immunity because of a very large thymus gland. So it launches quick immunity. So they do not, and they have a high melatonin level. So these are the factors which gives the natural immunity to the child. So which may be better than any additional. We have to see mortality also and morbidity also. So if there is no natural history of disease up to 20 years, we have got the data from 25 countries. They have pulled the data and done meta-analysis. The survival in the child is 99.9973. Hardly two or one or two in a million child dies due to COVID, as per the data from USA and Canada. And there have been only about 400 or 500 deaths in 2 years in children in USA data. And all those children had some comorbidities like childhood leukemias, obesity, endocrine disorders, diabetes. And a healthy child hardly succumbs to COVID. So this is the comparison of outcome COVID and after the Omicron has come. Now, as on today, 90% of infections in India has been in the past couple of months have been due to Omicron. And Omicron is almost 10 times milder than the Delta variant. So this is some data after the Omicron. Ventilation requirement was 0.07% versus 0.43%, that is before the Omicron. And after Omicron, the requirement of visit, OPD visits of children was just 0.19. And similarly in the older child. So Omicron is almost 7 to 10 times less mild than the Delta variant, and it gives the immunity. It acts as a vaccine, natural vaccine. So this is just to summarize the Delta cohort. This is below 5 years. OPD visits due to COVID was 21% of visits were in the child, and hospitalization were 2.65. And it is up to 17 years, 5 to 17 years. Whereas after the Omicron, it came down to just 3.89% from 21%. So almost 4 times visits came, and hospitalization also came down drastically. So besides that, so we have to, and there was hardly any death. In fact, there was zero death in children below 12 years. Below 12 years, there had been not a single death in 2 years in India due to COVID. After 12 years, that data, this below 12 years, this is a statement by the one of the member of the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization. So this is a statement. We don't have access to the data. So NTGI member had said probably he had an access to data. So there is not a single death in a child below 12 years due to COVID. Between 12 to 18 years, there might have been an odd death, which we do not know. But as I said, in USA, all the deaths in children due to COVID has been children with comorbidities. Healthy child, no death. We will see, we have got some data from 7 European countries on child mortality. We will see very minuscule mortality in children. So these are, besides that, what is the child and COVID? Firstly, mortality, morbidity we have seen is negligible. Other concerns for which they justify vaccination is that it can transmit to elderly in the family. And the other concern, left side of the triangle, is that it can cause community transmission. It can lead to outbreak, precipitate outbreak. So for all these three, we have already presented data. Again, we will present some more data on mortality, morbidity. All these three concerns are not supported by data. So this is the COVID-19 infection in children, account for 12.9 of all cases. This is the data from Canada, Ontario, Health Department of Ontario, one of the states of Canada. The cumulative rate is just 12% of all 5 lakh cases. The most peculiar reported, and how they acquired the infection, they were acquired from close contact of a confirmed case. So the child gets the infection from an adult. So there was a concern for which the vaccination was being justified, was that child can act as super spreaders. Child can act as super spreaders. Child can act as super spreaders. So that concern is ill-founded. And two deaths in Canada, there were just two deaths in children compared to 9,255 deaths in adults. This is from the state of Ontario. The link is given in the bottom. This link, Public Health Ontario. So out of 9,255 deaths, only two child died. So one can understand, and those two child had some comorbidity. So then the other question is whether child is not suffering, but can it pass to the household? So this is again the study in pediatric journal. The authors are Benjamin Lee and Raska. So of the 39 households, only 3, the child was the case which transmitted. Otherwise, more than 90%, 92%, the child got the infection from the adult. And the child, so when odd case, we do not, when we are planning public health policy, we go by the big picture. If 90% times the child is not transmitting, for public policy, that is enough to leave the child alone. Unnecessarily, it is not public health priority. We should focus on the adults, and once the adults are taken care of, and particularly the vulnerable, the child does not transmit much to the adults. Then again, some more data. How lethal is the virus? So this is the child group. If you see the 0 to 18 years, 0 to 19 years, the survival is 99.9973. This is the data. This is the data from 25 countries, pool data. One of the authors who has done this study is John Ionitz from Stanford University. So hardly there is any disease which has got a lower mortality than COVID-19. So once you are thinking of vaccination, and that too mass vaccination, can we have some example? We cannot think of any example in recent years when mass vaccination was given for a disease with such low mortality. It is neither good public health economics, neither good public health science. So this is the, I have summarized here in this 0 to 19 years, the median mortality. What is this column? Because this is covered.
Median
So this is the
IFR,
mortality.
median
Infant fatality rate.
infant fatality rate.
Fatality is 0.0027. Hardly, and all those, as I said, this fatality is in children with comorbidity. So if you have to vaccinate the child, you may vaccinate the children with comorbidities under the supervision of the personal physician. So they cannot be, scientifically, they cannot be any, because all the deaths, they have done studies in USA, or they have just segregated data. All the deaths have been in children with comorbidities. Hardly a healthy child died. And the other concern, they are not spreading the infection also. So there is no point that, and nowadays the vaccine, it is now very clear. As on today, it is very clear that the vaccine do not interrupt the transmission. So the vaccine is not helping in breaking the chain of infection. So even if the child is transmitting, the vaccine scientifically doesn't help in controlling the infection, transmission. And as it is, the child is not transmitting also. In the Indian context, if you think, already 80% of children, perhaps more, have already got the natural infection. And natural infection gives a protection from transmission also, and gives protection stronger than the vaccine as brought out by the studies from Israel. So these are again data from UNICEF. Over 60-70% of children who get COVID are asymptomatic. It may be more. Of the children, there are only 1.2% need intensive care. This is the UNICEF data. This number is less than the percent of adults requiring care. A small proportion of children will develop severe disease, though this is much less common than in adults and the elderly. And that proportion of children can be identified with particularly children, obese children, children with some genetic disorders like Down syndrome, that has been identified as a risk factor, and children with neurological disease. So those, as I said, those children can be considered for vaccination, whichever age group it is cleared. those children can be considered for vaccination in consultation with the pediatrician. So, as I was saying, this is the data from Sweden. This reference is given at the bottom. So, Sweden did not close the schools throughout the pandemic, and low incidence of severe COVID among school children and preschool children. Among 1.95 million children who were 1 to 16 years of age, only 15 had COVID. So you can imagine, 15 had COVID admissions. I mean, more must have had asymptomatic. Only 15 had admission in the ICU and multi-inflammatory syndrome to ICU. Only 15 were admitted to ICU, which equals to one child in 1.3 lakh. So ICU admission for children in Sweden was one child in 1.3 lakh. Of course, Sweden is a small country, but this can give us an idea that ICU admission for children with COVID was very, very rare. And all those children survived. It's not given the slide. All those children survived. There was no single death of child in Sweden. So, this is the, as I said, we should, when we are thinking of COVID and children, besides the impact of COVID, because in public health you have to balance, not only in public health, in medicine also, the principle is first do no harm. Whatever intervention, whatever remedy, whatever measures you take should not be worse than the disease. We have seen the disease is so mild, hardly any mortality, hardly any morbidity, hardly any transmission from child to adults, hardly any triggering of community outbreaks. But whatever the measures in the past 2 years, India has one of the country which had the longest closure of schools, almost. So whatever, these are the figures for collateral harm. Age 6 to 12, boys, girls. 5.3% of rural children have not enrolled in school compared to one due to shift in online education. Because in rural areas, poor people living in urban areas, the children do not have access to online education, online laptops, online mobile. So the social inequalities have increased, dropout rates have increased. This is the reference has been given here, and this is the drawing by my friend from IIT Mumbai, Dr. Bhaskaran Raman. He is a very good sketcher. So he has said already existing issues have aggravated. Child labor has aggravated, poverty, malnutrition, mental health, illiteracy, and these are the myths that school will cause super spreader. We have seen from the data, it is children are not super spreaders. Children are at high risk. This is again a myth because after the second wave subsided, everybody was saying, all experts were saying the pediatric wave will come, pediatric wave will come. So children are at high risk. So pediatric ICUs were prepared, vaccines were prepared for children, schools were kept closed. So all were myth. Children need a COVID vaccine, again a myth. Only children with comorbidity may require it under consultation of the physician. Third wave impending will affect children and schools were closed. So these were the barrier to schooling. And in this, lot of harm has increased, child abuse has increased, child labor has increased. So this is again the impact of the measures had greater impact on children than the disease. So child abuse, child labor and mental issues. So these are some of the drawings which conveys a lot. No playing with friends. Experts are saying stay home, stay safe. Not yet, one, two experts are saying jab is needed for a safe childhood. It promotes against the Delta, Deluxe, Lambda. These are the all future predictions. Ki more mutations will come. All even the Tedros is saying WHO the more mutations will, which goes against the scientific principles. We don't know tomorrow more mutations will occur and tomorrow the world may also end. So we can't stop living because of this type of fantastic predictions. So this is. The greater harm, and one thing which we are forgetting again and again, we keep overlooking is the natural immunity conferred by 80% of our children, perhaps as on today, this 80% was even before the Omicron. 80% children had, before the vaccination, 80% children had antibodies. After the Omicron is affecting everyone, with vaccine, without vaccine, subsequent infection, and Omicron is very mild, just like a common cold. So after Omicron, 100% of our children may have had a natural infection, because already 80% was covered by the early variant, even before vaccination. We are a crowded country, we are a dense country. The infection has spread through and through, even the earlier variants. Children did not get affected at all. Delta variant was 10 times more severe than Omicron. So where is the fear now? Where is the need for a urgent vaccine now? Emergency vaccine now? Selective vaccination may be used, but where is the need for urgent vaccine? So these are the some of the studies. 53% of children have faced different types of abuse. Ascending child sexual abuse statistics in India during COVID lockdown. Darker reality and alarming mental health concerns. You see, mental trauma would be long-term, lifelong trauma. Child who is abused during childhood or throughout his life, right into adulthood, he or she will be facing the trauma, long trauma. Now we are talking of long COVID, which is an imaginary thing, but this is a real thing. This is a real thing. Child sexual abuse has occurred during COVID lockdown. Child marriages have occurred. The parents wanted to marry their child because girl child marriages have increased. So this is a published paper from Sage Journals by Tikka Garg et al. So this is a very serious thing. We have caused great harm and we are continuing to do it. Ethical issues like 1 in million child dies. So you have spoiled the lives of the other million. Million minus 1 by closing schools. So that is not ethical. To save a child, that child could have been saved by selective vaccination rather than closing schools and other things, or selective protection before the vaccine instead of closing the schools. Mask. Now this is again a debatable issue, again a very sensitive issue. So there have been some studies which has found that mask can cause less oxygen perhaps, particularly in children, high risk of infection. This is very common. Infection because children, if you see, mask has to be worn in a particular way. If you touch the mask, you have to discard it. But the people are using the same mask for 2-3 days. How can you expect a child in school to take hygienic care of the mask? So that becomes a source of infection rather than preventing infection. Social interaction is very important in children because the child learns by facial expression, child learns the language, child learns the social skills, which are very important in the first 5 years, 10 years of life. All his life, the child will become, or her life or his life, the child will be socially handicapped, emotionally handicapped. And there is lack of scientific evidence that mask is protective. In adults, they have found, Bangladesh mask study, the cloth mask does not prevent at all. Surgical mask prevent only by 11%, and children will contaminate the surgical mask in no time. A surgical mask also has to be worn in a particular fashion and changed every 6 to 8 hours. That is not possible. So wearing mask can make the child touch the face and you have to eat, and also this is again a very, very debatable issue that most of the like countries are using mask in children, and there is here also in school when they open social distancing mask. None of the measures have shown to work. We should have collected evidence, but whatever evidence is there, there have been no studies in children on mask. In adults, there have been some observational studies of poor quality which support mask. But two randomized trials, one in Denmark and one in Bangladesh, they did not show any benefit, appreciable benefit of mask. As I said, Bangladesh study showed only 11% benefit, and Danish mask study did not show any benefit. And that to 11% benefit for surgical mask. And nobody can, it can cause too much of, surgical mask will be costly, it will cause environmental pollution, how you discard it, and the children certainly cannot. And when there is no Yeah, what is the rational, scientific rationale as on today is not there. And another thing we have to consider is that 80% or as I said, now perhaps 100% of children have got natural immunity. So once there is natural immunity, already the child is protected. Whether the mask or the vaccine will give additional benefit, hardly. There is hardly any chance any additional benefit when the child has already got protection from natural infection. There is no additional benefit of vaccine. There is no additional benefit of mask. So these are the reasons in the early phase of infection, natural antibodies play a most important role. So immune cells, B cells. So this is too late in the day for a vaccine. The infection has run through. Children have the ability to rapidly produce natural antibodies with broad reactivity. COVID-19 vaccines. Adverse reporting system is not very good in our country. There have been anecdotal deaths which have not been properly. The deaths may be coincidental. We cannot say, but it has not been properly investigated. So it can cause setback to other vaccine programs. People will lose faith in vaccines, and there have been the countries which have rolled out vaccination, the incidence has not come down. So the vaccine is not preventing transmission, and there are certain doubts that perhaps it may not be preventing death and hospitalization also, because Israel is the most vaccinated country. They are going in their fourth dose, and they are having higher rates of infection as well as deaths compared to the previous waves. So, and even if they prevent hospitalization and death, which is again doubtful nowadays, the duration of protection is not more than 3 to 4 to 5 months. After 3 months, the efficacy of vaccine comes down to 20%. So even if the vaccine is preventing severe disease, would you like to give every 6 months? Is it possible in such a large country? So these are some of the questions which have to be deliberated, and I think the National Technical Advisory Committee, Government of India is on the job. Today's newspaper only, they said they will take a decision in 3 4 days, because up to 15 to 18 years they have rolled out, and of course that is again voluntary because they were trying to force it. There have been certain resistance. So 15 to 18 years also the court has given judgment it is voluntary. Below 15 years, probably they are considering, and perhaps they may wait, hopefully. That would be the scientific way. Then, as I said, public health, as I keep telling always, public health you have to prioritize. We have got much bigger problems. Typhoid, we have got road traffic accidents. There are more than 400 young people die. Young people die daily, and 3 times get crippled for life. So we are bothered of long COVID here. We don't stop automobiles for traffic accidents. Fatality, we don't stop. COVID, there is not a single child death a day. One child may die in 1 year or 2 years. But every day 400 children die or young people die below 20 years. Traffic accidents in the prime of life. You don't stop.
You should ask
Helmet
Prime
also
Minister's
applies.
office. You should ask Prime Minister's office, Chief Minister's office, and all these political party leaders, including Rahul Gandhi. Many people die because of accidents. Then, shall we stop moving around? Shall we close down all the highways, local roads? Shall we stop automobiles moving on the roads? Ridiculous.
Death is a death.
Death is a
Death
death.
is a death. But you see what happened during COVID, Dr. Reddy? They did a traffic accident, did RT-PCR. Positive, dying of traffic accident, declared as COVID death.
Shocking.
So this is how the classification has been done all over the world, not only in India. Dying with COVID, dying due to COVID. If you do the data cleaning, you may find more such paradoxical things.
It's all ridiculous. That's what we said. Ultimately, science, truth, and freedom only will win. Yes, sir, please.
Typhoid, we have got a vaccine for typhoid, which is much more effective than COVID vaccine. And children are daily drinking, eating outside. We are not making universal. Why? Because Western countries do not have typhoid. They only promote their priorities. And even with treatment, the mortality in typhoid is 1 to 4% because we have got drug resistant typhoid. 1 to 4%. And what mortality we saw in COVID in children? 0.0007%. 99.997 survival. Typhoid mein survival is 96% to 99% even with treatment. You can imagine how many times more. Dengue, 70% of global burden is in Asia and majority in India. And the mortality from dengue can be as high as dengue hemorrhagic fever can be as high as 10 to 20% if not detected in time. Japanese encephalitis, we have got large belts of Japanese encephalitis. We have got a vaccine against Japanese encephalitis, which is not, we are not running in UP and all. Every year there is. And the mortality is 10 to 60%, and it affects children below 15 years, Japanese encephalitis. If we are so concerned about the children, aren't we doing research on these diseases? Vaccines are available. Why we are not promoting this? Strep typhus again, undiagnosed most of the time. Very high mortality if undiagnosed, can reach up to 30%. Tuberculosis, every day about 1400 people die. Young people die of tuberculosis. Even with treatment can be 5% mortality rate, and drug resistance tuberculosis mortality rate even with treatment is 20%. If you see Covid-19 without treatment, survival is 99.9973. You say there is no treatment for COVID, but there is no. Nature is the best treatment in COVID. Without any treatment, if you 99.9973 survive. Child deaths, more than 2000 children in India die from the above causes. 2000 children die. Hardly a single child dies of COVID as on today. Even at the first wave, second wave, what was the death? Why the data is not being shown? So, these are the public health should consider the major problems first. COVID will take care of itself, and some of the vaccines are available for some of these things. So this is something we are not practicing public health. We are not practicing health economics. 350, I think 36,000 crores have been spent on vaccine program, almost a major chunk of a health budget, which may not hardly any extra benefit to child. The take-home message is child cannot be super spreaders. There is no logic that okay, because second line of logic they give is child may not suffer but it can spread. Studies do not show that they are super spreaders. Mortality is very low. We do not know, and vaccine we do not know the long-term effects. Hardly trials have lasted hardly 1 year, 2 years. We can't know in 1 year, 2 year, and the child has a long life to lead ahead of the child. The life is ahead of the child. Elderly person 65 70 give a vaccine. If there are side effects 5 years 10 years down the line, he or she has lived his life, her life, but child has a whole life. In western countries the myocarditis problem is well established in young males. Heart one has to live with the heart all the life. Other killer diseases in children are being neglected. Other killer diseases are neglected. So these are the again a sketch by Dr. Bhaskaran Raman. The malnutrition and child labor, illiteracy, child marriage, mental harm. Time to shift focus before it is too late. We have already caused severe damage to children's mental health, social health, educational life, and this may have long-term effects. These are some of the references on road traffic accidents, much serious. Even Union Minister had mentioned that statement that much serious than COVID pandemic. WHO vaccine prevented typhoid. I gave you some typhoid figures, then burden of typhoid. As I said, 3% death from typhoid even after treatment. Dengue vaccine. Mortality from severe dengue, mysterious fever, bigger challenge. This is the UP. Large number of children died in UP last year after the monsoon. Why are people dying from tuberculosis? So these are some of the references.
Yeah, wonderful, Dr. Amitav Banerjee. Again, I hope the Honorable Prime Minister's Office to Honorable Chief Minister's Office, all political party leaders, hope you have been watching. So special mention to Mr. Rahul Gandhi also, because you are advocating booster dose to the Honorable Prime Minister. On your advice, you say government has come out. Now you have to answer the Supreme Court and the court of people, democracy. Are you going to take responsibility?
Dr. Reddy.
Yeah.
Dr. Reddy.
Yes,
I
sir.
have a special message for Mr. Rahul Gandhi. I don't know how many people know that he's a black belt in judo, or I think Aikido, which is
Okay.
a Japanese martial art.
Yeah.
And the principle of judo and Aikido is to use the enemy's force to your advantage. That is to use the natural force coming at you from the opponent, and you use it to advantage. So he can suggest, as a leader of opposition, he can suggest that we should do the same thing in the pandemic. We have got the natural immunity, we have got the nature's force. We should use the nature's force rather than apply force from outside like vaccine and other things. So the principle of the Japanese martial art says ki use the natural forces rather and harmony rather than you exert your force, which is not economy of efforts.
That is what he was demonstrating during Kerala elections with children. But what happened to Rahul Gandhi? Then why are you proposing this booster doses, Mr. Rahul Gandhi? It is a natural force, that means natural immunity. Why are you not saying that, suggesting that? How many of you in your family have taken these? You clearly tell us how many of your party leaders.
So he has to take a black belt in public health also. He has taken black belt in Kondo. So so this all public health also requires art. It is
Yeah.
not only quackery.
It is not quackery,
Just,
Mr. Rahul Gandhi, it is an art. Don't confuse and unnecessarily create panic. All the leaders, including Kejriwal, I will show you that again, that I'll play that video. Now, this show has clearly exposed, I hope, all the parents, माता पिताओं और आपके बच्चों के बारे में डरिए मत. हमने आपको एक सही समाचार विस्तार से दिया, दुनियादारी और अपने देश में क्या हो रहा, दुनिया में क्या हो रहा. कोई भी एक बच्चा मर गया क्या, जानलेवा था क्या कोरोना, आधार बताइए. जिस तरह हम आधार आपको बताएं, एक्सीडेंट से काफ़ी बच्चे मर जाते हैं, टाइफाइड से, डेंगू से, डायरिया से, ये सही है नहीं, टाइफाइड और ट्यूबरक्लोसिस से, ये सच है नहीं. हम आपको आंकड़े बता रहे, वो भी गवर्नमेंट के आंकड़े. जब एक्सीडेंट से इतनी की बच्चों की और युवाओं की मौत हो रही, क्या हम रोड पे जाना बंद करें क्या? ऑटोमोबाइल या ऑटो रिक्शा या रोड में चलाना बंद किया क्या? जब वो बंद नहीं करते, नितिन गडकरी साहब ने बताया, एक्सीडेंट्स जो है कोरोना से, कोविड-19 से ज़्यादा जानलेवा है. क्या आप रोड में चलने का आप बंद करेंगे क्या? प्रधानमंत्री से लेके हर एक राजनीतिक दल के पार्टी से मैं पूछता हूं, क्योंकि आईसीएमआर, डीसीजीआई और हर राष्ट्र के जो स्वास्थ्य केंद्र है वो सब नींद में है, गहरी नींद में है. या विज्ञान और विज्ञान वो नहीं समझते हैं. क्यों नहीं समझते हैं? हमें अभी कुछ बताए. बिग फार्मा, बिग कारपोरेट्स, एज इफ दे हैव बीन फाउंड बाय मिस्टर कैनेडी जूनियर. ऐसे ही हमारे देश में कुछ हो रहा है क्या? We have now clearly brought out all the evidences. I hope now at least parents, the school managements, if they are trying to impose something on you, governments, if they are imposing something on you, now you have information with you. Question them. Many children or youth die because of accidents, dengue, malaria, typhoid, diarrhea. We have given you statistics from the government. Can you give the same statistics as to how many children have really died? We have been challenging Prime Minister's office and Prime Minister himself, because he has been quoting Entagi, Dr. Arora, who on record said 15 to 17 years there were more deaths during second wave. We have challenged him, prove it, because your own committee members, Dr. Jayaprakash Mulayal, he said no deaths happened and you don't need a vaccine. Prime Minister's office and Prime Minister himself is not answering. What is this? Is this a democracy? And see the hypocrisy of political parties. They are advising, suggesting booster doses. And see the chief ministers, they attend rallies in the morning in UP, night they come to Delhi and declare curfew. What is this nonsense going on? Is this science? We are asking you to debate, discuss, debate and decide. That is democracy. 4 Ds. Discuss, debate, decide. That is democracy. Where is the evidence? Where is science? You are just creating fear. I am asking, same Supreme Court also should come out clean, all high courts. 50,000 rupees per death you are giving, that is my money, public money. That money should have spent for children's education and those people who have lost their lives and livelihoods, including many journalists like us. Everything has become costly, right from rice to oil. vegetable to fruit, everything has become costly. Supreme Court and High Court Chief Justices. How should people survive? That 50,000 money should have been spent on this. But you are spending on COVID death. Now I am asking you, as I have been asking you, what is the legal sanctity for those deaths? What were the presenting symptoms when they were hospitalized, unfortunately? What is the treatment given to such type of people who have lost their lives? Again, unfortunately, as a doctor, we never wish people should die. We want everyone to recover, live happily. But what were the medicines given? And if they have died, unfortunately, instead of recovering, what is the cause of death? Is there any post-mortem report? Autopsy report? Come on, furnish it. 2 years trial you don't want, but you are sanctioning. Central government says no, you know, we will not pay, and you are trying to say no, you have to pay. What is this drama going on? How long? How long? When public health, when people are suffering, you have to come out clean. Because I say there are these deaths are because either of comorbidities or because of drug trials. All these are insured by insurance companies. So insurance companies should pay more than 5 to 10 lakhs per every death, because every state government or privately, many are insured. Instead of insurance companies paying for those deaths, and instead of pharmacy companies coming and treating them because they are all insured, you are making us to pay from our own pocket. And not only that, create fear psychosis. Instead of pharmacies coming to the rescue of those diseased when they are hospitalized, you are creating emergency use authorization and paying my money for the manufacture of vaccines. How ridiculous this is. And that too for a disease which is 99.9% recovery without any treatment. We have challenged you so many times. Which is the killer disease in India amongst youth and children or adults? That is the challenge. Whether Indian Council of Medical Research, DCGI, every state health department, all political parties line up. Let us discuss, debate, decide for the survival of democracy. Prove us wrong, no problem. We are giving you scientific data, worldwide data, Indian government statistics. World Health Organization, when we were repeatedly doing shows to escape Nuremberg Court, they said 42% cases of TB and malaria went undetected. That is a huge number. We have given you a lady, unfortunate lady who was on a visit to India. She contracted tuberculosis. You know how America is scared of tuberculosis there. 1 year vigil will be there. That is what we have been saying. WHO escaped. But what about Indian and union government and state governments? That is the reason why we have been demanding people become aware of all science, aware of logic, evidences, aware of the truth. Right to live, right to health is your right, fundamental right, our right. In an Indian democracy, it is a republic country. We ourselves are constitutional authority. Every citizen, the taxes paid by us will make union and state governments to run the administration. That it means right from Prime Minister to Chief Minister, they are all public servants. Judiciary, everything comes under the constitutional purview. Because governments are not, executive is not acting, we expected Supreme Court and High Court to come to the rescue of people. See the trial which is going on in Supreme Court. First dose gone, second dose gone, now booster. Unfortunately for children, they are trying to inoculate and they are masking them. They become hypoxia. So many diseases because of that when your mask becomes moist. Why Supreme Court did not order a trial or inquiry into all this? And Tagi, their own members came out and said, children don't need vaccine, no child has died. But the chairman, Dr. Arora, publicly when he said many deaths in 15 to 17, 18 age group, Prime Minister also comes with that. Why Supreme Court has not gone for trial? That beats my intelligence. Yes, Dr. Amitav Banerjee, before I play this video, anything else you would like to add? Wake up children, school managements and college management, be aware. Law will not leave you. What is happening in the entire world will be repeated in India if you don't wake up. Yes, sir.
This will go down in history as one of the biggest failure of public health, biggest blunder by the world medical community. We have to really salvage public health. We have to again go back to the principles of public health, which has been violated throughout this pandemic.
Wonderful. Indian Medical Association, hope you are listening. And we have been demanding and questioning what is Indian medicine. What happened to all alternate medicines? Vikalp, Anandayas, Ayurveda, Corona medicine, naturopathy. You don't give them a chance. Including police, you have to understand, collectors, you can't book cases just like that. This is a democratic country. We speak science. We speak logic. We speak evidences. We speak truth. And we speak the fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution. That is what is freedom is all about. That is the true freedom. Now let me play this, the latest, the protest in Delhi in front of Kejriwal's house. See, people are on the roads in India too.
लेकिन हम यहाँ केजरीवाल जी को एक बात और बताने आए हैं कि एक महामारी जिसका नाम उन्होंने कोरोना रखा है, हम लोगों ने उसका इलाज खोज लिया है। आप वो बाहर निकले, हम उन्हें इलाज बताने आए हैं और उस इलाज का नाम है डरोना। हम लोग देखो प्रमाण है कि हम लोग डरोना है। आप सबको हम गले लगाना चाहते हैं अगर आप में डरोना नहीं है। और आप लोग क्योंकि हमारे देश के रक्षक हो, बहुत सुरक्षा करते हो, आप लोगों को पहले ही डरोना की डोज लगनी चाहिए। तो आप में से कितने लोग ये डोज लगवाने को तैयार हैं? डरोना की एकमात्र डोज और आगे कोई भी वैक्सीन आपको नहीं लगानी पड़ेगी। क्या आप लोग तैयार हैं? जनता द्वारा बनाई गई वैक्सीन के लिए या उस सरकार की वैक्सीन के लिए जो जनता को तो वैक्सीन लगाती है और खुद के लिए मेले लगाती है? 2 गज की दूरी पे इस समय आप में से भी कोई आदमी नहीं खड़ा है और 2 गज की दूरी का डर है। 2 गज की दूरी से पुलिस जो है वो लोगों से चालान काट के पैसे वसूल कर रही है। 2 गज की दूरी से 2 गज की दूरी से उन लोगों को मारा जाता है। कमाल की बात है ना? बिल्कुल जी, बिल्कुल। तो मैं
5 लोगों का मिलकर एक चालान करते हैं, ये कोई चालान नहीं है। ये तो लोगों को
ये मैं आप लोगों को बताना चाहता हूँ। मेरी बात मैं इनको कम सुनाऊंगा, ये सब जानते हैं। अगर मैं माइक दे दूं ये सब बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन मैं आप लोगों को बताना चाहूंगा कि आप लोगों को सिर्फ जो है चुप कराया गया। और एक बात ध्यान रखनी है, आप लोग संविधान की रक्षा के लिए नौकरी में लगे हो, आप लोग संविधान की रक्षा के लिए वर्दी पहने हो। आप किसी मुख्यमंत्री या किसी एसपी डीएम के अवैध जो है कानून जो पास किए जाते हैं उसकी रक्षा करने के लिए नहीं लगे हो। आप लोग हमारे एक तरीके से मित्र हो। मैं आपको कभी भी दुश्मन नहीं मानता, लेकिन आप लोगों को हमारा दुश्मन बनाया जा रहा है। गौर करिए कि आप लोगों को हमारा दुश्मन बनाया जा रहा है। नहीं, सच बात तो ये है कि जितनी हम लोगों को समझ है कि प्रशासन दबा रहा है, उससे 10 गुना ज्यादा आपको जानकारी है कि
बढ़िया,
प्रशासन
ये
दबा रहा है।
बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत बढ़िया।
लेकिन उस प्रशासन ने आपको पहले मुंह पे कपड़ा लगाना सिखाया और उसके बाद मुंह बंद करना सिखा दिया। प्लीज बोलो, आप मेरे लिए मत बोलो, इनके लिए मत बोलो, लेकिन आने वाली पीढ़ी के लिए बोलो, अपने बच्चों के लिए बोलो।
जब सबके बच्चों को मार रहे हैं उनके लिए
और मैं आपको बताता हूँ, अगर आप आज नहीं बोले तो आप लोग तब बोलोगे जब ये जगह भी प्राइवेट कर दी जाएगी किसी कंपनी को, जब आपकी नौकरी भी जो है वो खतरे में आएगी, तब साहब आपको ख्याल आएगा कि यहाँ कुछ पागल थोड़े से आए थे और आप लोगों को कहते थे कोई बात। वो वक्त आए, उससे पहले जागे। बाकी जो है यहाँ पे सभी लोग जो यहाँ खड़े हुए हैं, हम दंगा करने नहीं आए, हम मिलने आए हैं। और इस बात की थोड़ी सी जिद बना ली है कि इस बार हम अंदर जाके नहीं मिलेंगे, हमें उनको बाहर बुलवाना है, हमें बाहर अपना ज्ञापन देना है, अपनी बात कहनी है।
आम आदमी आया है,
आम आदमी आया है, महाआम आदमी से मिलने
आया है, बिल्कुल।
और अगर महाआम हमसे नहीं मिला तो हम उसे आम की तरह चूसेंगे। यही जनता जो थी उसने उसे आम से खास बनाया है, तो ये जान ले
So the public ire started in India to better be aware, otherwise.
आप कहना चाहता था कह दिया यहाँ बहुत लोग भड़के हुए हैं और माताएं आएंगी कोई हम मैडम आइए आइए प्लीज आइए आइए आप बोलिए बोलिए इन लोगों को ज़्यादा सुनाइए
I'll play another video is also there, and that also I'll try to play. These are all videos which we have been receiving of late, and this is also another thing which I will just try to play. What do you say about this, Dr. Banerjee? People have started to come onto the roads in a big way. Now they have been demonstrating in front of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal's home in Delhi.
They should answer the people, and nobody is facing the people because people are talking common sense, which they have abandoned.
People
The
are
administration has abandoned common sense, scientists has abandoned common sense, but the people have
सब
Yeah.
जानते हैं और आज जो वैक्सीनेशन दिया जा रहा है कल आने वाली पीढ़ियों में ऐसी बड़ी बड़ी बीमारियां ऑटो इम्यून डिजीज हार्ट के प्रॉब्लम हमें बाद में इसलिए फेस करने पड़ेंगे कि उसके लिए हॉस्पिटल भी हमारे लिए बहुत कम पड़ जाएंगे। तो इसलिए हमारा भविष्य बचाने के लिए और हमारे बच्चों को बचाने के लिए ये जिसको शौक है वो ले ले, लेकिन कम से कम सब लोगों पे इसको न थोपे वो वैक्सीन को और मास्क को जो है। तो इस तरह से मैं सबसे बस यही अनुरोध करता हूँ। बात समझ आइए पुलिस सर, हेलो, 8 साल के बच्चे को कभी हार्ट अटैक से मरते हुए देखा है आपने? या 10 साल के बच्चे को या 20 साल की औरत को? कभी नहीं।
एक बार बड़े वरिष्ठ व्यक्ति बोल रहे हैं तो इनमें छीनो मत दो इसे, बोलो तो दीजिए, बात करो कर दीजिए।
भैया बोलिए आप। मेरा नाम भी ऐसा थोड़ा सा अगर सुनेंगे तो शायद सभी लोगों का भला होगा। तो भाइयों एवं बहनों, मैं इससे पहले ये बात बताना चाहता हूँ कि आप इस आंदोलन के लीगल एस्पेक्ट को भी ध्यान में रखिए। वैसे मैं वकील होने के नाते मैं ये बात बताना चाहता हूँ।
हम लोग किस लिए नहीं मिल सकते? प्लीज इस बात का हमें जवाब चाहिए।
because he goes around stating he meets everyone, Mr. Kejriwal.
हमें जवाब चाहिए कि यहाँ पे हम लोग क्यों नहीं मिल सकते?
का केस चलाएं,
महिला आ गया जी।
करोड़ों रुपए के कंपनसेशन का केस चलाएं। सबसे पहले मैं उनको ये कहना चाहूँगा और दूसरी बात, मैंने 15 तारीख को ही दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट में एक रिट पिटीशन फाइल किया है। पिटीशन में
मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ हेल्थ एंड फैमिली वेलफेयर के गाइडलाइन के अनुसार कोरोना में
उनके खिलाफ उनको ये बोला गया है कि आप लोग
रिस्पॉन्सिबल
तो हमने
मेल लिखते मेल पे जवाब नहीं देते हैं लोग। आप इलेक्शन के लिए मांगने आओ और फिर बताएंगे हम कि हमसे बात करो, हमसे बात करो ज्यादा। और बेकार सारी बात बोली बच्चे हैं, मांगने आया हो तो
कोई मिलने के लिए कोई आ रहा है?
भाई कोई बात
हमें लेटर देना है, हमें लेटर देना है, हमें लेटर देना है सिर्फ। तो कोई एक ऑफिसर कोई तो आगे ऑफिसर हमें लेटर देना है, हमें कुछ करना नहीं है।
कुर्सी चाहिए, दिल्ली की कुर्सी पे क्या? अरे दिल्ली की कुर्सी छोड़नी है क्या? छुड़वाओ भैया, इसको छुड़वाओ। फिर पंजाब की कुर्सी चाहिए अभी। दिल्ली में बच्चों को मारने के तुले हुए स्कूल के जरिए, स्कूलों के जरिए हमारे बच्चों को मारने के लिए तुले हुए। एग्जाम नहीं देने देंगे, बोर्ड के एग्जाम और एग्जीक्यूशन का क्या मतलब है?
कोई ऑफिसर आ नहीं रहा है।
केजरीवाल शर्म करो, केजरीवाल शर्म करो, केजरीवाल शर्म करो, केजरीवाल बाहर आओ, केजरीवाल बाहर आओ।
तो बुलाइए ना किसी को, कोई लेटर
We
देना हमें।
request you to call your seniors, please. If Kejriwal ji is not there, then we request you to call the second hand in charge to meet the people. We have been standing here for over an hour. इतनी तो उनको समझ होनी चाहिए, इतनी शर्म होनी चाहिए कि आप पब्लिक से आके लेटर लेने में इतना क्यों डरना है? हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? अपनी जालियों के पीछे, अपनी जेल के पीछे खड़े होकर लेटर ले लें? कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा कि आप लोग बाद में हम लोगों के ऊपर डंडे चलाने में मजा आता है।
अच्छी देश की धरोहर है तो क्यों नहीं मार रहे हैं? मार रहे हैं तो वैसे ही मार दो। ये वैक्सीन का क्या बहाना मार के मार रहे हैं उनको? भैया जहर दे दो सबको, जहर वो ज्यादा अच्छा था ना, उससे अच्छा था। जहर मिला दो, यमुना में हर जगह पानी में जहर मिला दो, सब मर जाएंगे।
सर इलेक्शनों के टाइम पे गलियों गलियों में घूम के बोलते मैं आपके बीच में आपका बेटा आपका भाई हूँ। आज ये इतने भाई बहन के आगे खड़े क्यों नहीं मिल रहे हैं? आज भाई बेटे कहाँ रह गए? ये
बच्चों को मारने में मजा आ रहा है।
स्कूलों के जरिए एग्जाम के नाम पे पढ़ाई के नाम पे हमारे बच्चों को ब्लैकमेल करके मारा जा रहा है। शर्म करो। तुम्हारी चुनावी रैलियों में कोरोना नहीं है, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग नहीं है, हमारे स्कूलों में रह गया क्या कोरोना? सिर्फ ये वैक्सीनेशन सर्टिफिकेट स्कूलों में मांगे जा रहे हैं बच्चों से। क्या चुनावी रैलियों में वैक्सीनेशन सर्टिफिकेट लेके गए हैं?
सर बोलिए वोट देने आए हैं, बाहर आओ बाहर आओ। तो बाहर
जो भी नेता वैक्सीन लगाए वो हमारे सामने लगाए, हम देखते हैं ना। वो वैक्सीन लगवाए नहीं, हम लगा देंगे, हम आगे लगानी चाहिए, हम लगाएंगे। नेता होना किसी का नहीं लगवाने, हमारे सामने वैक्सीनेशन नहीं है।
स्कूलों के टीचर जो शिक्षा देने के लिए जिनको हमने बनाया बिठाया गया स्कूलों में, उनको आज वैक्सीनेशन का प्रमोशन करने के लिए बिठा दिया है। वैक्सीनेशन के प्रमोशन के लिए रखा गया क्या टीचर्स को?
उनके लिए पहले ये
एक वैक्सीन ना ऐसी बननी चाहिए जिससे ये बहरे हमारे नेता जो हो जाते हैं वोट लेने के बाद, उनके कान खुले, उनकी आंखें खुले सच्चाई में।
बहुत बढ़िया बात।
अब एक वैक्सीन हम इजाद करेंगे। अब हम ऐसा वोट देंगे, अगर जो जो वैक्सीन जैसे हमारे बच्चों को एग्जाम के लिए रोकते हैं, हम वोट देना रोकेंगे जब तक ये ऐसी वैक्सीन ना लगाए जिससे इनको मुंह बधिर ये जो बने बैठे हैं, आंखें बंद करके बैठे हैं, इनके सारे तंत्र खुल जाए। अब वो वैक्सीन हम लगाएंगे और उसके बाद वोट देंगे। आइए नीचे।
केजरीवाल बाहर आओ, कोरोना का इलाज खड़ा है।
कहते ना माँ का दूध पिया है तो आगे आइए।
बाहर आओ, कोरोना का इलाज देखो।
वहाँ कोरोना का इलाज लेकर आए अपने बच्चों के दूध का हिसाब करेंगे।
बाहर आओ, कोरोना का इलाज है। इलाज तुम्हारे दरवाजे पे खड़ा है।
आप लोग इतनी देर तक वेट करके और बाद में क्या करेंगे? लाठी चार्ज कर दो बस।
केजरीवाल बाहर आओ
अरे भाई साहब, ये पब्लिक को छोड़ो, ये अपने बच्चों के सगे नहीं है।
अरे यार,
जो अपने बच्चों के सगे नहीं है वो हमारे क्या सगे होंगे? बस जब इनके रिश्तेदारों में भगवान ना करे कोई ऐसे होगा तब समझ आएगा। कोई बात नहीं। By the way, आप लोगों के मास्क उतरे हैं कि वो हम लोग खींच चुके हैं?
कितनी गुलामी
एक बीमारी आई जिसे इन्होंने कोरोना कहा। मैं भी डर गया, कोरोना आ गया, सही में भयानक था, लोग बाग मर रहे हैं।
सुनिए, किसी एक आदमी को अंदर भेजेंगे, एक आदमी लेटर लेके जाएगा, हमें लेटर देना है, हमें तो लेटर देना है।
एक को तो लाओ।
भाई साहब,
खरीदो, पता मुझे बुला लो। सोनी को बुलाओ।
गए हैं क्या? बोले ना, बोले हैं। नहीं, हमें लेटर देना, हमें करना क्या है? लेटर देके जाना हमें।
इन्होंने सिर्फ कैसे नियम बना दिए, रेस्टोरेंट 50% सीटिंग कैपेसिटी पे खोलेंगे, एक सीट छोड़ के बैठेंगे।
We are trying to bring you the public ire, जो लोगों की गुस्सा है केजरीवाल दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री के घर के सामने। तो हम ये विजुअल्स दिखाना चाहते हैं आपको, किस तरह
भाई साहब इतनी देर
पेरेंट्स डरे हुए हैं
आना चाहिए लेटर।
क्योंकि उनके बच्चों का फ्यूचर खत्म हो रहा है वैक्सीन सर्टिफिकेट पाबंदी के। दे आर एनफोर्सिंग दिस वैक्सीन सर्टिफिकेट्स so that they write the exam. The parents are worried that the children will lose their academic career because they don't believe in the vaccines. Those who are interested, let them take their say. But we are not interested. Why the hell you are forcing us?
नाम बता दीजिए, बस नाम नहीं पूछ रहे भाई हम बहुत ही लंबे समय से कपिल बजाज जो है खुलासा करते आ रहे हैं, आपको कुछ और बातें बताइए।
मैं खुद एक प्राइवेट स्कूल के स्टूडेंट हूँ और हमने ये पढ़ा है कि जो गवर्नमेंट है वो अपने सिटीजन को अकाउंटेबल है और हमारे पास अपना फुल राइट टू प्रोटेस्ट है और आपको हमारे सारे जवाबों के क्वेश्चंस के जवाब देने पड़ेंगे। आप छुप नहीं सकते सिटीजन से। जनता बहुत पावरफुल होती है, आपको सामने आना ही पड़ेगा। नहीं लगवाना चाहती तो जबरदस्ती क्यों लगाया जा रहा है? हम टीनेजर, हम बच्चे 15 से 18 साल के जब नहीं लगवाना चाहते तो आप हमें फोर्स कैसे कर सकते हैं लगवाने के लिए? मारने के लिए फोर्स कैसे कर सकते हैं? मरने के लिए फोर्स कैसे कर सकते हैं? बच्चों को स्कूलों में बुला के एजुकेशन के नाम पे ब्लैकमेल करके वैक्सीन लगवा के मार दो और बाहर पब्लिक को शराब पिटवा के फ्री में पैसे मार दो। लाइन लगी हुई है वहां से। शेयर करो।
जर्नलिस्ट कपिल बजाज जी यहाँ पे जुड़े हुए हैं, स्पेशल आए हैं यहाँ पे इसी काम के लिए। और बहुत ही लंबे समय पे ये जो तमाशा चल रहा है, ये जो फर्जी वाला चला रखा है, इसके बारे में खुलासे करते आ रहे हैं। और साथ में सीनियर जर्नलिस्ट जो है आशुतोष जी भी आए हुए हैं यहाँ पे। तो मैं चाहूँगा कुछ बातें जो है कपिल जी आपको बताएंगे इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में।
सुनिए, सत्य हो रहा है,
समझिए
आगे के बाद उसे सत्य निकलने वाला है। सत्यों का अंदर है, सत्यों हम सब कलयुग में रह रहे हैं, सत्यों निकलने वाला है, उसे सुन लीजिए क्या।
So these were the images we got it from Delhi, and you have seen the ire of the people. They are not going to keep calm down now. The movement has started like the world. It is picking up in India. If these politicians, these administrators and their problem media, if you don't speak science, if you don't speak truth, and if you try to curb the freedom of the people will be on the roads. The density of Indian population is very high. Dr. Amitav Banerjee, before we say bye, one comment from you, and the same will be retelecasted on Sunday at 11 a.m. Maybe I will request Dr. Amitav Banerjee, maybe he has given me different title, if it is possible, we'll make it more attractive. These channels, Dr. TSPR channels, are in larger public interest. We bring evidences, we speak truth, so that the freedom of the people doesn't go away. Yes, sir. You wind up, sir.
वो कहते हैं ना, अभी जब रास्ते में लोग आ रहे हैं, वो कहावत है बहुत पुराने की, यू कैनॉट फूल ऑल द पीपल ऑल द टाइम। तो अभी जैसे उनको जब होश आ गया है तो अभी नेता लोग भाग रहे हैं। कनाडा का नेता भाग गए और अभी यहाँ के भी नेता लोग भाग रहे हैं। अभी वो ऐसा हो रहा है, तो वो तो दिख ही रहा है। अभी लोग देख रहे हैं ना, आजू बाजू उनको भी हो रहा है, ओमिक्रॉन हो रहा है, और वो जुकाम से भी हल्का होता है, पता भी नहीं चलता है। और उसके लिए इतना वैक्सीन, इतना मैंडेट, तो उनको तो लगेगा ही जो ये तो कुछ हो नहीं रहा है, मतलब कुछ तो बहुत ही गड़बड़ है। और इसमें हर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी एक ही बात बोल रहा है हमारे यहाँ। ऐसे में तो आम आदमी पार्टी हमेशा अगेंस्ट जाता है बीजेपी का। इसमें बीजेपी भी सबको वैक्सीन लगा रहा, आम आदमी भी लगा रहा, तो लोगों को लगेगा ना दाल में कुछ काला है। इट इज सम अदर इंटरेस्ट। मतलब अभी तो एक दूसरे के अगेंस्ट पॉलिटिक्स भी नहीं खेल रहे हैं, ये तो सब एक हो गए हैं। तो इसमें तो अभी पब्लिक विल बी अगेंस्ट ऑल पॉलिटिशियन, पब्लिक विल बी अनफॉर्चुनेटली अगेंस्ट ऑल वैक्सीन्स। अनफॉर्चुनेटली मेजॉरिटी वैक्सीन्स, हमको चाइल्डहुड मीजल्स वैक्सीन इम्पोर्टेंट है, टिटेनस वैक्सीन इम्पोर्टेंट है, डिप्थीरिया वैक्सीन इम्पोर्टेंट है। अभी हमको यही दुख है कि सभी वैक्सीन बदनाम हो जाएंगे, जो कि बहुत नुकसान होगा पब्लिक हेल्थ में। सभी पॉलिटिशियन बदनाम हो जाएंगे, जबकि अच्छे पॉलिटिशियंस भी हैं। तो इससे क्या है, बहुत नुकसान होगा समाज को।
समाज में बहुत ज़्यादा नुकसान होगा। हम पहले बता रहे हैं, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज, पॉलिटिशियंस एक हो गए। जिस तरह एनआरआई फंडिंग आपको पता ही नहीं मिलेगा, समाचार नहीं मिलेगा, वो ख़त्म कर दिया पूरे पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज मिलके। 74 से आज तक कौन सी एनआरआई पार्टी कहाँ से देश के बाहर लेके जाके वो पैसे किस तरह राजनीतिक दल में आया। इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड्स, नथिंग। We have been telling you all political parties have become one. They are being funded by these big pharmas. Otherwise, why will political parties, whether in power, outside, in opposition, how are they echoing only one vaccination, mask mandates, when science says something? Science says 99.9% recover on their own. You don't need anything. Science says this is the truth. Science says give freedom to the people. Then why these political parties have become one? Lakhs of people in the rally, no social distance, physical distance, vaccination, God knows, no masks, nothing happens. But in schools, everything happen. When you go to bank, everything will happen. With the common man, when you go to cinema theater where they get money, nothing will happen. When you go to bar and restaurant, nothing will happen. Melas, nothing will happen. But when it comes to common man, everything happens. Now, common man has really getting awakened now. So better be careful. Speak science, truth and freedom only. Do watch out the retelecast with maybe a new poster. We will announce it in advance. The coming Sunday at 11 a.m. this will be retelecasted on Citizens Dr. TSPR channel. Do support Dr. TSPR channels in larger public interest. For all the Indian Sukha Nidra Shubharatri for the world over. Good morning, good afternoon and good night. Once again, Dr. Amitav Banerjee ji, thanks a lot. Take care. Bye, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.